This is episode 214 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm your host, Dion Morales, and today I'm joined by Marcel. This is the week that matters, Manzano.
Question mark. This is the week that matters? So I listened to the the end of the week recap by Ali. He does like an end of the week recap, and he basically said that everything that we've done the first 3 weeks don't matter because this is the first week that we face some actual competition. So I find it two different things. I find it disrespectful because I want to throw more beef around that we get no love, but I also find it disrespectful like that's going after Sweden, saying like, oh, Sweden was like it don't mean nothing because you played Sweden, Hungary, and Chile. And that's throwing some shade over them because they're saying like, so anyway, we'll see. We'll see if this is the week that matters.
And for anybody who doesn't know what he's talking about, we're talking about the XTC, the X-Wing Team Championships. Also joined by Will, Big O Trandoshan Broom, Hagwood.
Just getting out there, just sweeping up Finral's messes, getting his hand around.
And Ryan, I guess I'm in, Staniszewski.
Yep. Watch out, Lemieux. Staniszewski's on the way.
There it is. So yes, today our episode is brought to you by the Lemieux Hyperspace Galactic Championship Qualifier. It is this weekend. So I know there's always people who snooze to the last minute, kind of like, oh yeah, there is an event this weekend, and they all pile on buying the tickets. So go ahead, get your tickets now. There are still tickets for the target locks available, and of course, like I've said in the past, if the target locks don't sell out in the pre-sale tickets, they will just become available to everybody else. A spider just climbed down right in front of my camera. Sorry, bro, you can't be in here. Anywho, looking forward to this weekend's competition, and we'll find out who ends up being the champion. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what Hyperspace is or just wants more details on it, that's what today's about, and we're going to actually go a little deeper than that and maybe talk about how it could evolve in the future. What would we do? But first, we need to talk about the XTC. The XTC is the X-Wing Team Championships. We got teams from all around the world competing to be crowned the team championship, the team champions of the X-Wing Team Championships. Team USA is currently out of 7 weeks, 3-0. Am I correct, Captain Manzano?
That is correct. 3-0. Three team wins.
Right, 3 team wins. So, what countries have we defeated? Just for reference.
So Sweden, we took that one 6-1 in a lot of nail biters. It could have been 4-3 either way. It's 6-1. Hungary, we took 6-1 in what we probably could have been a 4-3 our way. I think we had that one, but. Again, and then against Chile, it was 7-0, which really could have been like a 5-2. I think we stole a couple once there that we shouldn't have. So 19-2 individual matches so far. So
are you saying that this week Team USA was undefeated?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so only a total of 3 losses in the entire competition. 2 losses. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, if you're looking at all 38 teams in their respective groups, I think Italy is the only one that is up there with 19 individual wins. Italy's also 19-2 in their group. In the same group that saw the favorites, Poland, being upset by the newcomers, Singapore. So Singapore had a very unexpected rally and beating Poland 4-3. So that was kind of a bit of a shocker.
Well, that means that Team USA is the team to beat right now, right?
Or Italy.
What's Italy's record right now?
19-2 also.
19-2 as well. How's Team England doing?
They're doing 3-0. They're 17-4, so they're still doing pretty well.
But that's still worse than the USA, right? But didn't Ali say that they were gonna win all their games? Like, didn't that?
Well,
what
he said that they so if they don't win a team match, if they lose a team match,
Oh,
then
that
Ali
sound.
has.
Hold on.
Yeah.
That sounds like regression. He said, I remember if we go back in the archives that they were going to be undefeated was what he said, and he said if we're not undefeated, then he was drinking hot sauce. That's what I heard. Okay, so now we're backtracking to now if they don't have team wins. You know, that's different, right? That's different, categorically different. So I don't know. I'm not saying to go spam Ali and be like, hey, you lied. What I'm saying is that he's got some weeks to deliver on his promises. All right. Anywho, I love you, Ali. Just messing with you. All right. So let's talk about Team USA this week. What's going to happen before we get into our main topic for today, talking about hyperspace. Let's go ahead, break down the matchups. Who is Team USA playing against? And let's do our predictions like we did last week. Because last week we were a little bit on the fence. It seemed like it was a 4-3 US leaning. And obviously it went 7-0. So I think if we just keep under guessing on our bets, it just usually ends up better anyway. All right, Marcel, let me go ahead and pull up the matchups here. Let's do that first, and we'll get going. So, what team are we playing against? Or is Team USA playing against this week?
So this week we do have we're playing against Spain. Spain had a bye week the first week, so they've only had 2 matches. And they are 2-0, so they also have not lost. They've beaten Australia, and they beat they beat Australia and Malta so far, and they are the defending champs. So they were seeded number 1 coming into the tournament.
Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the matchups here. We'll go ahead and flip screens so we can do a little doodling on this. All right, lay it on me. First matchup of the set here, we have Resistance versus the Rebellion. So we know that Carson Ray is flying Poe, right? Is Poe? What are the other ships again?
Poe, Lulo, Jess, and Rose.
Poe, Lulo, Jess, and Rose. A 4-ship resistance squad. What is the opponent from Spain, the Rebellion pilot, flying there?
So Spain's got an interesting one. I'm not going to knock on them because, again, we're playing against them, and they are undefeated as well. But they took an interesting twist on the token stacking rebel. They have Kyle Katarn with Jin, Urso, and Moldy Crow. That's a regular one. Benthic 2 tubes in the U-Wing with Leia, Perceptive Co-Pilot, and hull upgrade. They have Garvin, but they have Arc 170 Garvin, not X-Wing Garvin with a hull upgrade. So they have Arc 170 Garvin with a hull upgrade, and then instead of going Hera, they went Shara Bay with vectored cannons with the rear facing.
Oh.
So no Ahsoka, no Hera. The Garvin is on a arc. So Kyle, Benthic, Arc Garvin, and Shara Bay with no bid at 200.
Okay.
I can't get behind that list without Hera. Like, that's the whole point, right? Perfect information, pass the tokens around. Jyn Urso can change it as necessary from a focus to an evade. I like the idea of Arc Garvin. It's just a little more health. You don't have the boosting opportunity, but it's a little more guaranteed beef, even though with more defensive tokens available, Garvin X-Wing might mathematically be more difficult to kill than Garvin Arc.
I think also because you don't have Hera, you don't have the token passing back and forth.
Yeah, that's a huge deal, I think. I think that kind of breaks the initial idea of what makes that list really good.
I mean, does it though? Like, Benthic gives the focus to Garvin, and Kyle gives one of his focuses to Sharo. Right? And then if Garvin, once Garvin attacks and spends his focus, he can make it an evade, and he just throws it to whoever else is in trouble.
Sure, but the point of Hera was the perfect information. You never had to make a decision. You could always just haul it up on Hera, and she'll make the perfect decision when you need it.
So are they? It seems like what they're leaning into is that Benthic and Kyle are enough, right? So you have Benthic could give it to Garvin. Garvin, when spending it, assuming that he does, gives it back to Kyle to recycle it with what I'm assuming is a Moldy Crow. And Kyle, at the beginning of the turn, ends up passing one to Shara so that she can hit like a truck. Now, I will say, this list seems to me more offensive than our normal, Hera and X-Wing Garvin version, especially with that addition of Shara Bay, who does not need to be range tethered. And I think that is the advantage there that can be leaned into just a little bit. I mean, Ryan, you smashed me pretty hard with the Shara. You show me the power of the Shara side.
Oh yeah, Shara is really good. I just think this list archetype might lose too much without Hera. Now, I definitely get what you're saying though on the offensive side, because Hera doesn't contribute a lot on the offense. When you have Shara with that rotating arc, she is providing more pressure. Can't deny that. I just think that Hera's too good in that list archetype. I feel. We'll see. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that this list also brings, with Garvin's rear arc and Shara's rear arc, I think Kyle's pretty much a turret. Benthic's kind of a turret when he's sitting and spinning, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like the time on target would be so much better in this list, even if you don't have the unlimited modifiers or whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely more offensive and less focus on the defense. Since it is less focus on the defense, you do have 2 hull upgrades that you don't have on the traditional one. So that's like an extra couple of evades in there.
So now we have to make a decision. Who do we think has the advantage in this matchup? Carson Ray has won a couple of nail biters, right? Couple of close games. His list is, you have your more like jousty section here with Jess and Rose, and Lulo, of course, and Poe can be more independent there. What are our guesses? What are you thinking, Ryan?
Yeah, see, I say all that about the Rebel list, and I'm trying to think, how does it match up against Resistance? And you have Jess is obviously really good. Rose is really good for her points. Can Carson make sure that they're not too left in this straight up like joust situation where he can find a good angle to force them to commit while Poe and Lulo are taking great effect of the fact that both of those ships are moving last. So I think with Carson's previous games and the fact that he has shown consistency and be able to bring it down to the end of the game, if Lulo and Poe move after an entire list, I think I have to favor Carson.
All righty, there we go, and I am in agreement with you there. Next, we move on to Scum and Villainy for the Spanish team playing against Daniel Leon and the Separatist list. Here we have Django and a set of 5 vultures. No struts, but you got red, you got blue, you got stars, you got stripes. I mean, it's a great squad of little vultures. We did get to see them on GSP this weekend, and when the vultures can do work, and they just leave a perfectly healthy Zam to the end game, turns out you got the advantage in that game. What is being played for the Scum?
I got it pulled up here. This is Andy Ramiro. he has 3 large base ships. That's Lando Calrissian with Trickshot, L3, BT1, and the title. Namlam with Proton Torps, Auto Blaster, Zam, and Cybernetics. And then Asajj Ventress with Maul, False Transponders, Shadowcaster, and Contraband Cybernetics. So leaning into the stressing the enemy, handing out tractor beams, punishing you for shooting at Namlam. Lando and Asajj can be very defensive with their force and rerolls and things like that.
I feel, if I'm not mistaken,
have a
go ahead.
The I wants matter. The initiative goes to the separatist, to Daniel. So Daniel gets to choose if he moves first with his little guys or moves second with his little guys.
That's an interesting thing because my initial thought in that as a Vulture player is I like to move first and take up the space, right?
Yep.
The other part of it, though, is if you're shooting first versus a Zam carrier in Namla. Now, I'm always in favor, and my target priority whenever I see Nominalists is everything except Nam, if Nam has Zam crew. So it just depends on how well Daniel can get Asajj or Lando caught or key in on them and shoot them instead, unless they can burn Nam, but I don't think there's any real guarantee of that.
And I'm sorry, I realized I did say, really quickly, I did say Django, I meant Zam, sorry. The true best pilot in the fire spray.
Yeah, I still think it's probably the right choice to have the Vultures move first, because it's a lot easier to block a big base with a couple small ones, versus you can really mess up a whole Vulture droid swarm with one big base getting in your way.
Yeah, and also I think the big thing is if you get the target lock and you trigger the target lock and get his charges back, and he fires off a torpedo and kills you, that's a torpedo on a Vulture and not a torpedo on Zam. So that's kind of his choice. You know, if he wants to do a torpedo to knock a droid out, okay.
Yeah, he can't recharge them. I mean, there is a certain threshold of amount of droids you're willing to lose in certain turns, especially the first turn of engagement. If you lose 2, it feels pretty bad. If 1.5, you can deal with.
So looking at here, my assessment is, one of the things I see is in Daniel's game last week, he was able to take out a 5, was it 5 or 6? A swarm of hyena bombers, right? At 2 agility. And the fact that he didn't play against 3 agility ships really showed the guns that are on the Vultures. When you're playing against 3 agility ships, sometimes you can feel like your 2-die guns don't do damage. But here, you're playing against a 1 agility ship and 2 agility ships. Now, Asajj is going to be the hardest one to put damage into, right? Because she's got the Force, at least most likely. And Daniel is going to have to deal with those tractor beams from the title, the Shadowcaster title, right? After being hit, you can end up being tractored. And remember, these Vultures do not have, there's no struts here. No struts. So
I was going to ask that reminder if they had struts or not.
Yeah.
So on top of that as well, Daniel will have to kind of keep in mind, I assume Lando Falcon has his Lando Falcon title. Yes? So have to be kind of conscious of doing that linked action and providing that extra die for a stressed ship.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I want to worry about there, though, knowing that most likely Daniel would prefer to move first to make sure that he guarantees those actions, and because he can end up exhibiting some control on both of those pieces, Lando probably gets burned down pretty quickly because he's only 1 agility. He's the easier one to take out. I'm leaning towards Daniel getting the win here in week 4.
I think I agree. Just vultures, especially when you're going up against a bunch of ships that have the same amount of defense dice as you do attack dice, or even one less with Lando, and they're all big bases, they're not dodging many arcs in most cases. Like, they're going to shoot something. And combined amount of firepower, as long as they can track something down, they'll find something and kill it. And even if they just take care of one of the 3 ships, pretty sure Zam can clean it up from there.
All right, our next matchup, the Rebellion versus the Galactic Republic. On the Rebellion side, we have Matt Carey flying a Hera, Ahsoka, Kyle. No, not Kyle. Janors, sorry. Janors and my brain. Come on, brain. Janors. I'm going to get it before I finish.
He's got Wedge A-Wing.
Wedge.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's Janors with Title and Jyn Erso, Wedge, just little baby Wedge, and then proton rockets and instinctive aim on Ahsoka, Hera with proton rockets and 198 points. And he's playing against the Galactic Republic, which is a 200-point list with calibrated with CLT Obi-Wan, Anakin with marksmanship, auto blasters, and R7, and
that's Ada. Ada Anakin.
Yeah, the Ada. Yeah, the auto crit Annie. And 2 Arc 170s. So 2 arcs, Obi, calibrated, Anakin at 200 points. So
that's the captain, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
Marcelo Soto, yeah, he
Yes.
is the captain.
Oh, so he does not have a bid at all.
Well, 200 point.
So
I
Ahsoka,
assume Matt has some amount of bid.
yeah, and he's got 3 5s and no, he got 2 5s, a 6, and a 4, and Matt has a 2-point bid. Yeah.
I mean, Wedge is pure bait and annoyance, but he's really good at it.
I mean, yeah. Not wrong.
What were Ahsoka's upgrades? Does he got Procket on both ships, or does he have a different missile on Ahsoka?
No, he's got prockets on both.
Okay.
And instinctive aim, so he does like the whole target lock, and then
Sure.
yeah.
I'm not sure how much Hera is going to be able to threaten Annie, depending on how wide he goes with Anakin with Ada. I assume he's going to want to go really wide, but then he can't leave ships out in the dust. Arcs, it's got to be. They can take up some good space, that's for sure. But they tend to be the bodies that are taken out, at least one of them, most games. Even though the main targets are CLT Obi and Ada Anakin. Does CLT Obi have any like R2A6 droid or anything?
Nope. Just calibrated.
No, it's not even sense, man.
You got to really slim them down to fit that full crit Anakin in there.
Yeah, I know.
And both arcs.
Stealth device Anakin or any mod slot?
Nope.
Nothing. Wow.
63 points of crits and auto blaster.
Yeah, I'm inclined to give a W to our side again, to be realistic.
So here is one of my worries and why I'm not going. I'm not jumping on that boat right away. And that's the Arc 170s. They have a ton of beef. Now, Matt has proton rockets in this list, right? Is it on all the A-Wings? 2. It's on
Just the 2.
Ahsoka and Hera. Okay.
And Wedge is shooting usually boosted by Janors, so he's like a 3-dice gun, yeah.
Okay. So,
But no prockets.
So here is my assessment. If Matt can take out the Arc 170s early, if you can take them out early without losing any A-Wings, Matt wins the game. But if you start trading ship for ship, and the first ones that start going down are the A-Wings, the ARC 170s on Marcelo's side. That's the Spanish side, and we're trading any of our ships. If we trade 2 for 2, Matt's lost the game, and that's because of the defensiveness of the Jedi when they have both of them have 3 force, and at that point, even without the bid, I have confidence that Marcelo would be able to play defensive X-Wing. So for me, this is a 50-50 matchup, depending, and that the use of what do you get for the ARC 170s will determine the game.
It also depends on Matt's usage of the proton rockets, right? Like if he's using on an ARC 170, he has to be very sure that I'm taking out an ARC 170 this turn, because the single resource, like you said, of those proton rockets is the main spike damage that ideally wants to be used for hunting down and putting those aces, at least getting half on them, so you're getting points into them. So yeah, besides Jan Orr's pumping up shots, it is kind of a couple turns of big hits, but if Marcelo can space out and not allow those proton rockets to be positioned offensively as easily on Obi and Anakin, that'll make it obviously very difficult for Matt. So I'll go with the 50-50.
Okay, 50-50 there on that matchup. Next, we have the Empire, looks like played by our boy. I'm delaying because I'm forgetting. Give me just the first letter of his name.
Steve Castillo.
Why'd you give me the... I just asked you the first letter, man. All right. Steve Castillo versus the Resistance player in Team Spain, who seems to have a stellar mustache, by the way. This is a very small picture, but I can see that mustache. All right. Steve Castillo is flying the Gorin Strikers. Gorin Strikers. What's happening on the Resistance side?
He's facing off against Apollo Rodriguez, and they have 3 T-70s. Those are heroic reds with C-3P Rose, and a Zari Bengal with thread tracers.
So it's a battle of the threes of the
I
initial
was
threes.
about to say, here's the big question: who's got the bid?
199 for the Republic. So Steve beats him out. What's Steve at? 2 or 3, something like
198.
that. Okay, so just 1 point beats him out by. Still, that means a lot against this.
Yeah,
I think Goran's the I4 ace.
Goran's the ace. Yep. So it's definitely still a big deal in the interaction of discipline, right? And it's a big deal for the ailerons, for the strikers that could get a higher benefit. But man, those T-70s can be really, really beefy and can hang around a little bit longer and hard to one round sometimes. So I don't know if even with the second player discipline trigger, if that's going to still favor the Imperialist if they just go for a joust style engagement. So it still may be on Steve to make sure that he's not giving the engagement too easily set up for the Resistance squad. But I think all on paper it should be in favor in the player order and how the card interactions are to Steve.
And we got to talk about the bombs like that. This in the joust, one of the sneaky things, right? It's you have Squad 1 coming in, Squad 2 coming in, and you end up leaving behind a present right here. There's a box of joy. Put a bow on it. All right, because you have what, like 8 of those just dropped right next to your squad, forcing you potentially out of position. Can cause a ton of issues. Ryan, what are you thinking? You've flown a lot of this T-70 type of archetype. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I think a key is you want to fly moderately together, because if Steve decides to start acing with these strikers and like split them up and not do the Goron trick and just say, I'm attacking from multiple angles, even though it's not as beneficial for my like token stack with Goron, at least that way he's forcing the resistance player to pick a direction, right? If they do that, then the resistance side has to make sure that like they're kind of close, but can interact or jump and not be predictable which way they're going to jump. So, but they don't have to stay close together because there is no jest. There's no range one interaction, right? It's just Rose needs friends in arc of her when she shoots and around her when she's getting shot at. So I could see how you can engineer a favorable game state for the resistance side. You just have an uphill battle with discipline working as is and with the ailerons.
So to me, it sounds like you're feeling a little more 60-40. Not super confident, but there's still a pretty good window for the resistance. Is that a correct assessment?
I mean, I'm 60-40 on the Imperial side. Like,
All right.
Positively towards the U.S. just because of card interactions and player interaction.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and leave it right there. Not quite a 50-50, 60-40, but not feeling 100% confident. All right. Next matchup, we have Doug Howe, Mr. Automatic over here. We'll see if he can keep it going, flying his Kylo Von Reg versus the Empire. All right, Marcel, what Empire list we got out there? We got some I6 is going to be chasing down Kylo this week?
No, we don't. Not this week. So we've got the Grand Inquisitor naked. We've got Whisper with Juke. It's a chunky Whisper. Juke, passive sensors, Fifth Brother, and stealth device. And then Captain Pharaoh with Emperor Palpatine. So he's, what is that? Initiatives 3-5-5. And no bid.
So you said passive sensors, stealth device,
Juke, and
Juke.
Fifth Brother. And then Palpatine on Captain Pharaoh to help some more.
Wow. Okay. That is chunky thick.
So I once again will 100% put my faith in Doug, but at least to go through what likely could happen in this, since Kylo's moving after Whisper, even though a stealth device, has to be deathly afraid of that proton torpedo. But even though Von Reg is I6, I think if unfortunately it put in an odd position, Whisper can actually bully Von Reg pretty well just through the decloaking and positioning. So again, I believe in Doug. He hasn't let me down yet.
in Doug we trust. I'm in for that as well. And I do agree. It's because that TIE BA, right? It relies so much, similar to the Inquisitor, on those hard ones. So it keeps a very it's good at holding a position, but it's not moving wide like Kylo is. Kylo is more sweeping as opposed to Von Reg and the Inquisitor, the TIE V1, which is more kind of a knife fighter, kind of staying in that same that same channel. But I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna put the faith in Doug and go ahead and slap that dub on Doug, Mr. Automatic, until he's not. We'll find out.
So would you say in that matchup, are you, I mean, point wise, yes, 100%. So if I'm Doug, I'm willing to trade Von Reg as long as Whisper dies, because Kylo versus Farroff and Quiz, I think it's almost a shoe-in.
Alrighty. And Lionheart 286 saying something that is very true. The best green dice are the green dice that don't happen. And that's, I think Doug doesn't mind playing against, like if you're playing against 2 or 3 ships, Doug's job is to not get shot, right? Just start pecking away, be patient, take a shield till you get half points. And at that point, you don't have to be hyper aggressive. You get to be safe. So we'll see, of course, if he can execute that. He has so far. Our next matchup, played by a pretty cool dude named William Hagewood. Don't know if you heard about him.
That's me, Dylan.
Oh, oh, it's the same William Hagwood. There's
Yeah.
two.
Turns out.
Now there's two of them. All right. So flying a Bossk, Fenrau, and Kanan Jarrus in the Hawk list versus the First Order. What do we got going for Team Spain?
This is David Lozano. I guess so. I'm not the names expert. Anyways, what I do know is his list, which is Kylo Ren, Commander Malorus in the Psi Shuttle with Proud Tradition, and 3 Epsilon Squadron cadets, the TIE FOs. So Malorus mini swarm with probably the best piece that FO has.
How are you feeling about that matchup?
Me?
Yep.
I mean, Kylo's always a problem, right? Like, you let a Kylo go and he could just ruin your day. I don't really know what to think about those Epsilons, though. Like, I don't understand how that and jousting block puts out enough damage, like with like time on target. You know what I mean?
I think in most matchups, yeah. But what you have that will work really well is, like, you have Bossk who can, if he wants to, double reinforce. But against those shots, you might only need 1 reinforce anyway. And then and then Kanan can just neuter whatever shot Kylo's is, because Kylo's the only ship in that entire list that has a 3 attack dice.
Right. Yeah, I really only try to double reinforce if I'm facing like a bunch of T-70s or something. Like, I need 3 dice attacks. Because double reinforce doesn't do anything against 2 dice attacks.
Yep, it's only once you get to that range 1 area, which if you're
I'm
probably
sure
in range
it will
1,
be.
I'm assuming they're trying to block you, so...
Yeah, Bossk has coordinating through Gleb and Gamut key on focus tokens, so blocking him's like only so effective. But you still have Kylo out there and a 7-hole Malorus with I-5 coordinate.
Yeah, and that is, we don't know how the Team Spain First Order player has played this list, right? Is Malorus there? Like, we've seen people use Kylo kind of separate, right? You have the jousting squad on one side, and then you have the swarm kind of together over here, and you get attacked on 2 fronts. But there is definitely room for a playstyle where Kylo lives a little bit closer, and you're in that coordinate range. And you could end up with some really weird interactions, or Kylo in different spots, kind of a pseudo advanced sensors situation going on potentially with that Initiative 5, because of course Malorus does end up moving after Bossk, but before Fenrau, so might be able to scope out where she needs to go in order to get off some calculates. Excuse me, not calculates.
I wonder
some coordinates.
if, assuming that this First Order player knows the new clarification and update to the Commander Malorus card that says before you modify the dice.
It's actually not valid.
Oh, it's not valid in XTC?
Not valid in XTC.
No.
Any rules changes that happened after the beginning of the tournament, this is being treated as a 1-day tournament. So it's as if they changed the rule in the middle of the day. You still play by the rules that you started the tournament with.
Okay, so Kylo locking can spend his lock before he would have to deal with Malorus's ability. Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so what Ryan was referring to is now, since Malorus says must, they've it's not quite errata. I would say that it is clarifying that says, now it says must, like, no, you got to do it. You can't subvert negative consequences by reordering it, saying, well, I'm actually going to re-roll my dice, like you were saying, with a target lock instead of doing Malorus. No, you got to do Malorus first, and then the target lock. But that's not valid for XTC until the end of this round, the initial round. It sounds like for the cut, it will be in play. By the way, though, all the new rules do apply for this weekend, and going forward, rules are, you know, instant for the GSP event. So the current ruling for Malrus will be live this weekend for Lomu.
And I guess we talked a lot about just Bossk and Kanan. I mean, Fen Rao's there too, right? So, like, Fen Rao's, it's Will, let me ask you this. How often in your games have you shifted your coordinate to Fen instead of Bossk? It's normally always Bossk to get him as dangerous as possible with his 180, but have you coordinated Fen yet?
Yeah, I mean, if Kanan's got 2 focus tokens, and Bossk is stressed, and Fenrau, like, I can coordinate, like, yeah. If I can coordinate it, Fenrau, yes. But most of the time, yeah, he's Fenrau's like playing, what do I want to say, close, but like sometimes he's not that close to the coordinating. But oh yeah, the being able to coordinate and then either give him the link to barrel roll to focus, or just give him the stress because he's got decent blues anyways. Yeah, you got to use all the tools available.
I think what could be interesting, I think it was brought up by Daniel, actually, who's in the chat. Yeah, I think got to remember that Malrus does have a native jam, and even though we always assume the range 1, there is that range 2 bullseye that got added a while back, and I think bullseyeing your boss at range 2 to get that jam on your reinforce could be something that could show up.
That's true. I didn't consider that. Maybe I do need to go for the double jam.
Double reinforce.
Oh, that's what I mean. I got Hawk. I could jam too. Start jamming.
It just depends on how you're engaging and how close you're going to be, you think. Because obviously you would assume the FOs are leading the way for Malrus, and Malrus isn't like close enough. So it would probably be second turn engagement where that could happen, where Malrus is getting closer and the FOs are all trying to block you anyway, depending on what you gammaed or coordinated. Could take the opportunity to jam.
All right. So looking at this matchup, and the tools, this feels to me like a 50-50. I think Will has a lot of tools here, and if Bossk and Fen comes in and just delete, you know, Kylo, or even you can trade Kylo for you can trade.
I'll trade Bossk for Kylo every day.
Exactly. Then you have you still have plenty.
I'm actually
there.
much closer to a 60-40 or just a straight win for Will, because I think you have 5 ships in a list, right? Mm-hmm. Only one of them has a 3-dice attack. That seems very manageable for Kanan to neuter. And on top of that, you have the reinforce from Bossk. I think it's definitely it's on the first order player to get some of those tricks that we talked about into play much more difficult than it is for Will to throw the weight around of the tools that he has that are probably going to affect the opposing list much easier.
All right, so you said you're confident enough to go ahead and slap a win down there. You know what? I'll be with you. In Will, I trust. All right.
I guess.
No pressure, Will.
I am. No, Spain hasn't played 3 weeks, but I am at the top of Group D right now, as a note.
Aha, there you go.
Well, flex while I can, I guess. So.
Well, you are one of the few or only 2 belt holders in the world right now.
That's true. I think the only reason I'm at the top of Group D in like the individuals is because Bossk finishes games. Man, I actually don't go to time.
180 arcs. Bossk is angry.
So angry. All right, what's the last matchup? Who's that handsome devil down there?
We already talked about you.
Well, whatever that guy who's next to him is.
So we got Marcel Manzano of Team USA, triple regen. We got Ada Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got Rick Olay and Naboo Anakin. versus a separatist list. What is on the separatist side?
So we're playing Ander Lopez, who I have not seen play, but I have heard great things about him with this particular list. And it's the Django Zam with a 194-point bid. Django has Lone Wolf, Jamming Bean, Chancellor Palpatine, Thermal Detonators, and False Transponder Codes. Zam with Django, Dooku, Thermals, and False Transponder Codes as well.
All right, I'm done.
So who has?
I just slapped.
I have no bid. He has 6.
I'm sorry. I did it before you even finished. Like, all right, Spain wins.
Marcel, you have sense though, right?
I do have sense, yeah.
Okay.
And that is big that he doesn't have, like, if they had Seasoned Navigator, that would be, like, game over automatically.
Yeah, so in Extended, you see them using a second Force user as crew instead of Seasoned Navigator. Seasoned Navigator is still really good on Django. It's definitely rough, even with sense, to try and block one of them, but not having Treacherous, going for a bigger bid makes sense. Regen could make it annoying though for only 2 ships against you. It's the game's going to come down to the first engagement and how they use the false transponder codes. If they can false transponder and burn down or hurt one of your ships enough on a permanent level where your regen either cannot compensate or they can keep getting guns on that ship that they've keyed in on, then it's going to be really rough. But if you can mitigate the false transponder codes, maybe.
All right.
Indian had no comment.
You have. This sounds like a bad matchup for you, man. It
is.
does.
I'd say out of all of the matchups, this is probably the one. But that's kind of what you do. You're not trying, again, in a team tournament, you're not trying to win all 7. If it does, it's great. You're trying to set up more positives than negatives. So you're going to end up with a couple negatives, and if you can pull them off, great. But yeah, last week it was Matt Carey that was the sacrificial lamb, even though he pulled it off. This week it's right here.
So with that, the prediction is for the Team USA, if it goes our way, that is a week record of 5-1-1. Obviously, there's no ties in X-Wing, but that's what we have listed up there right now. We'll of course see how it goes. I think this is the week that maybe our hubris is showing today. Maybe our bias, the confidence of Team USA being 3-0 in this, so far is what's having us put this out here. But it feels pretty good. I
will say most of the matchups on paper, like by the numbers and by the rules and the player order of the game, do favor US. So it was like, and then I'm like hesitant. I'm like, what? Spain's really good. What's going to happen here? But on paper, it's looking really good. But like, I don't know. So
it does make you.
Good luck to you guys.
It does make me ask, what do they know that we don't know? Because this is an opportunity for Spain to completely flip the narrative, right? If they come in, and hopefully not, they just come in and spank you guys, right? They sweep the U.S. Let's go extreme. Sweep the U.S. All of a sudden, the confidence of Team USA shaken. Spain shows their dominance, likely to win, right? Like it completely changes the narrative for the current group. So I'm sure Spain, looking at what we have up here, if we have any Team Spain members in the chat, are probably going like, Like, oh, you watch. I'm sure they're excited, and we do have a game already. We're working on scheduling it right now for Wednesday night, so we'll at least have one of these on GSP. Hopefully, assuming that the Spanish player says A-OK. But it should be good. I'm excited to see what happens this week. All right, so that was your Team USA update. Obviously, it's been a staple part of the show because we have, the captain and one of the players on our show. So we're gonna lean into it a little bit. So for our discussion topic today, I want to start with what is hyperspace, and the reason I want to start there is one comment I got from a community member, which, by the way, thank you so much. I'm forgetting your name, but thank you. Was basically saying, hey, don't forget about us people who don't know all the things you're talking about. So it's important for us to sometimes lead with some preface information. So hyperspace is a format used in tournaments that limits the ships and pilots that can be used. They are listed on the currently on the Fantasy Flight Games PDFs, what is hyperspace and what is not. For GSP events, we use yet another squad builder in order to import the list, but I do know that yet another squad builder and Launch Bay Next, those are the two builders that I use, they are accurate and match what's on those PDFs, and you're limited. And essentially right now the current theme is that there are some ships that have generics, like the non-unique pilots that you can use, and some ships have the unique pilots that you can use. Once in a while there's one that doesn't quite match that formula, but they kind of flip and flop. Essentially anything that hasn't been re-released in second edition is not a part of hyperspace right now. I'm sure there's something that I'm missing. Is any other descriptors there, Ryan?
No, I think that's like the baseline of it overall, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's why I just want to make sure we're covering our base. So now that we have that information, next weekend is the Lamu Galactic Championship qualifier. It is one of our 8 qualifiers to get into the Battle of Alderaan, the Galactic Championship. This is the worldwide championship that anybody can enter. We have players from all around the world playing, and we will crown a galactic champion. And we, of course, started running this last year, in not necessarily in place of the official world championships, but there isn't an official world championships this year again. So we will be crowning a galactic champion, and looking forward to see who ends up being that top 32 get their invite into the battle for Alderaan this year. So my question here is, we haven't thought about hyperspace for a while. It's been a bit. So what I would like to do is start with a reminder of what are some things that are actually, sorry, let me roll it back before we even hit that. Ryan, why is hyperspace a good thing?
So I'm going to make this as unbiased as possible because people may know my thoughts that hyperspace is my preferred thing, but it's a good thing and it exists. Just like for people who are familiar with Magic the Gathering, they have multiple formats. Some of the main ones are everything's available to use in deck build, and for X-Wing it would be list building, which is extended. And then they also have a format, I believe in Magic they call it standard, where there's a curated list of cards that can be used to build your deck. X-Wing for hyperspace, same thing, curated, set, limited upgrades, pilots, and ships that you're allowed to list build with. And ideally, it's meant for a more streamlined, ideally more balanced, and ideally more new player friendly, being that ideally all the re-released ships are in hyperspace. Maybe not all the pilots or upgrades from those packs, but at least all the ships or centered around those ships to get a more cohesive experience and more, I'd say, inclusive and easier to attain to get a competitive list in front of any player's hands.
That is a great descriptor there. Now, there are definitely people who are dissenters of hyperspace. Marcel, I know you're not a huge fan of hyperspace, and why is that? Give me that perspective.
I'm actually not a huge. I don't hate it. I kind of like it, but I prefer extended, and mostly it's because I like to have all the options and I like to have variety with what I'm flying against. Because it's a more limited number of ships, it's a more limited number of combinations that you can do. The thought is that for starters, you can't play all the things you like to play. So maybe I love wedge on an X-wing. I can't play wedge on an X-wing. Things like that. But also because there's less options, you fly against more of the same kind of thing if you play only hyperspace. So if you play only hyperspace, I don't like using that term, but a lot of people say like how fast the meta is solved.
Mm-hmm.
If you only the less ships you have, the faster that will solve. I don't think we run into that issue much because we don't have that many hyperspace events. If we had a lot of hyperspace events, for example, that last year in 2019, but we were doing in person, and all of the store championships were hyperspace. It felt like towards the second half of the store championships, you were flying you were facing against the same list over and over and over and over again. It was always the same list. Where extended, you get a little bit more variety, unless something weird happens, like you get the Nantex or something outright broken happens. But that I think is probably where people tend to kind of not like it as much. Is that the variety tends to be less, and you tend to play against more of the same type of list. You don't get as much variety. The meta is probably solved a little faster, and more than anything else, people don't get to play with toys that they prefer. If you prefer, there's a lot of stuff. But for example, the Hawks on the Rebel side. I mean, a lot of people like Kyle Katarn, a lot of people like Jan Ors. You just don't get access to any of that, and it feels bad if that's your list. If you're practicing with one list and that's the list that you really enjoy playing, and all of a sudden they're like, well, only 2 of those 4 pieces are now valid. It's like, well, then I don't want to go through the trouble of trying to figure out something else. So it's a preference, but I do enjoy hyperspace. I'm kind of starting to like I like hyperspace, and then in a probably like 75-25 way. If 75% of the tournaments are extended and only a quarter of them are hyperspace, I think hyperspace adds a lot of variety. But if you flip it and the majority are hyperspace and only a few extended, then I think the hyperspace can get old.
Okay, that is a great way to look at that.
One thing I didn't clarify and mention is ideally hyperspace is meant to be rotated every 6 months with the points change, or sometimes in certain new releases they will update what's available in hyperspace, both what's added in or taken out. Besides these new packs recently with the Sky Strike Academy, Phoenix Cell, and I forget the name of the scum one because I didn't buy it. The
Fugitives and Collaborators.
Fugitives and Collaborators, yeah. Those had some adjustments to hyperspace of adding some things in, and I think took a few things out, like the Rebel generic A-Wings were taken out because they added all the new named ones. But we were initially supposed to get our points update and hyperspace update right about now, realistically, but that got pushed to the fall. So people who are feeling a little bit tired of this hyperspace format, I can sympathize with it. I was looking forward to some new, fresh looks, but it is what it is for now. I still think there can be some evolution to what currently is, but it's a little more limited to than what we would have had for a full refresh.
Yep. And I will tell you, the date for Lamu was picked with the intent and the hope that the rotation would have happened already, like it would have been at this point a couple weeks ago. But I won't say the newest update, according to a post that I saw that was sent to me via text that happened during a live stream, that it's moved up a little bit. So it was fall, it's now moved to late summer. So you know, it seems like it's a fluid situation, but hearing that they're looking at late summer for a release sounds like it's going to be sooner maybe than we think, which would be a nice change in pace. Now,
it sounds like it'd be just in time for the October 2nd Hyperspace event for GSP.
That's right. We have one more Hyperspace. Now, Will, I'm going to toss this to you. I want your opinion on something. So this last year and a half, almost 2 years, okay, we've gained a lot of players. And because of that, you know, most of them are playing. Obviously, we're playing mostly on TTS, and they haven't had the next breed of in-person tournament players. We haven't met them in person yet, right? Like they're ready. They're just they haven't had that opportunity yet. So I'm curious to see and get your opinion on how do we think their opinion of Hyperspace will evolve? Because right now they have access to everything, right? Nothing's being taken away. One of the arguments for Hyperspace as well is just like availability. Hey, if you want to fly an Alpha Class Star Wing and you're a brand new player, you can't just go to the store and buy one. Right? Okay. Same thing with a lot of different product. But we're going to be in real life here pretty soon, and those real life restrictions are going to be there. Any thoughts on maybe the mental evolution and emotional changes that might happen for these new players that will be moving into in person pretty soon?
Well, I mean, that's really the history of Hyperspace. Was it always was supposed to be like a second edition released only format, so you could go to the store during a Hyperspace tournament or game night or whatever, buy a couple ships and a core, and then put them on the table right away, and you'd be in the same playing field as someone with the conversion kits, right? I'm trying to rack my brain about, is there a ship that's in Hyperspace that isn't a second edition product?
I think
technically certain pilots like Soontir fell.
But okay, so they would come in the conversion kit, but you could realistically still buy the model at the game store.
Yeah, but if you went and you were like, I'm going to start playing Empire, I'm going to go buy Sky Strike Academy and the starter set or whatever.
Sure.
You'll have interceptors, but you won't have all of them.
Okay. I mean, you need that turret, so it makes sense. Yeah. All right. So, and that's what I think was always my opinion of, like, we needed Hyperspace to grow the game. We needed people who can hit the ground running. And I do think over time we've kind of gone away from that, and it's made this more curated list, like very specific, like no named Aether sprites, and what's some other ones? Well, you can't even fly named interceptors right now, anyways, can you? You can't even fly Turfiner.
No, it's the generics that are the interceptors are named in Hyperspace. So you can have Sienna and you can have Soontir.
Can you?
You just can't have the generics.
Yeah, the generic interceptors are out. And by the way,
because that just changed, though. They used to have sabers in there. That was the most recent change.
For me, Soontir Fell is in the new single interceptor pack, so my bad on that one.
That is true. Okay.
I had Sky Strike on my head for the whole thing, but yeah.
So it'd be like obscure X-Wing pilots, like Two Tubes and things like that, right? That you'd have to go and find the expansion.
Yeah, the original U-Wing and Cavern Angels stuff. Yeah,
right. And I think that's really affected my opinion on Hyperspace. I thought it was like a necessity to that we as experienced players needed to lean into Hyperspace to grow the community. But now that it's kind of like a curated list, I don't think that's really doing that job as much as what it could be. It's really doing this kind of, I don't know. I really don't know what their, did they ever really say what their intentions were of making some named and some not?
I think it was just.
Really...
I think it was just variety.
Just variety.
I think because that was
makes sense.
That was the biggest overhaul for Hyperspace we had seen, because that's what it was before, right? It was if it's new, it's in Hyperspace, and then there was this massive like, okay, it looks completely different. And I guess that's I think you hit it on the nose there, Will. Is what is the purpose of Hyperspace?
Exactly. Yeah, and that makes me have like mixed feelings on it as of now. I do like the I do occasionally, I think like Marcel, like I do occasionally like the list building challenge or restricted list, just to, you know, dust some cobwebs off of the old Yasby and see what we can come up with limited upgrades and things like that. But I would just wish that it had, I don't know, something else. I think it's missing something right now. But I'm just not sure what, I guess would be the question. I feel like it is missing something though.
And they now, to add another side to this, one of the things that that AMG mentioned in a live stream, people were asking about reprints. Are you guys going to be reprinting stuff? And it was just a quick yes. But I want to kind of go down the rabbit hole. They didn't get any specifics there. Is if they're going to start reprinting stuff, we end up reaching a point where ideally, assuming that it's still good for their business, because I know the intent originally, they said, we're going to re-release all the first edition stuff so that anybody can get it, right? And then we only got so far. One of the things we kind of speculated was, well, was there some business reason? Were sales not good enough because not the entire X-Wing base was buying these new ships, because a lot of people had them already who already played the game? But if they go through with their full plan, we get reprints of everything and all players have access to everything in second edition, then we go and we have the possibility to make Hyperspace kind of like, more like what you're saying, Ryan, a truly different format where they can take it to more extreme levels of specificity in what they want to see. Is that your ideal, Ryan? What are you thinking?
So I think it would have definitely been nice, and it's probably just bad timing to get their take on like what their thought process is on this Hyperspace. Like, I'd like for each new Hyperspace list it'd be nice to, I don't know, a small paragraph would be like, hey, this is what our thought process was into why we wanted this Hyperspace, just to get an understanding and know what their goals were, right? And by the end of it, did they end up reaching those goals or whatever? Or would they want to adjust to? But I think the main thing is to find a closer sense of balance in the game, because it's controlled, right? When you can control the cards and interactions that are there, you don't have things that end up being so card combo-y and you're trying to explain it to your friend across the table and they just go, I'm not following, but this crazy thing just happened to me and I feel like I fell into this trap, but I couldn't stop or whatever, right? Or I have to try and catch supernatural Kylo. Good luck, type of thing, you know? It leaves some of the things out of the game that take away from, I feel, the core of the dial, move, shoot, right? I get to move before I, actually move, being like actions or supernatural, advanced sensors, all that stuff, like limiting some of those interactions that break that main cycle. Sure, there are ships like the Ada that have system phase stuff, but at least that's in a set phase and not at your initiative, right? Any certain munitions, bombs, things that just varied up a bit so that you have certain ones available, but I can't think of some off the top, but there could be like crack shot, right? Crackshot was taken out. It has a feels bad oriented to it sometimes. In Snare on Nantex, like, sure, they're not meta or whatever right now, but man, if you have like a 3 or 4 ship list of all small bases and you're going up against a Sunfox with a Snare, it's probably going to be a feels bad mostly moment in time. And we've seen Nantex doing fine without a Snare in a competitive capacity anyway. Granted, probably being carried by Zam and Grievous a bit in those lists, but it's there. So I think try and maintain the core of the game experience, limiting some of the crazy interactions. Not that there can't be some combos. Sure, you can make combos, but it needs to be something that still kind of follows the guidelines of the core of the game itself.
All right. Now, here's another question. Let's take this idea of hyperspace. Let's go one step further. Is there room for a third format? Hear me out. Okay? We have extended.
Quick builds?
No. God, no. No.
Sorry.
Epic?
Yeah, Epic?
No. I guess an additional. I mean, that's not a third. I guess we already have those. Ones that are played competitively. So we have extended. What if hyperspace becomes still the whatever is new, but it's like a sliding scale? So things end up falling out of hyperspace, right? It's just a sliding scale. It's whatever was released in the last X amount of months. It just kind of moves. And then there is this other thing, this other area where AMG could create more kind of like list building challenges. And it's not a fixed set of things. The parameters can change, but they can say something like, for this season, our list building challenge is called, whatever they want to call it. Enter Star Wars name here, and then evolve it then. Kind of to give that feel of kind of similar to Magic the Gathering. Again, I didn't play, I never played Magic, but kind of the idea of I think what would be called standard would be that like that sliding scale one. Is it Legacy? For the extended, and then you have just kind of your wacky one in the middle,
That
Commander.
would be, Commander, yeah. It's the only thing I know about modern Magic is they play Commander.
Yeah. So I think, because here's the thing. Let's be honest. The two things that we love about X-Wing, right? There's the dial. There's that heart pounding. Oh man, that pressure. You're gonna put the dial down. Is my dial correct? And list building, like, we just sit there and we tinker, right? And the more situations where people are tinkering and building lists, I think AMG as a business ends up making more money, because you're like, oh, I have this idea, I want to play this as this tournament, but I don't have X, let me go get it or borrow it from somebody. You're increasing the excitement around your product. And then for us as gamers, as X-Wing players, we are now motivated to think about the game, and that's what keeps it exciting. We have now conversation points, and the community as a whole continues to move. And I think more options can be okay. And I think it's something that I hope AMG considers in the future.
So I would actually steer off of different list building things. You could say whatever this third format is, it could be either extended type building where everything's available, or curated in the same manner as hyperspace. But if we want to also key in on what AMG's strength is, its theme, and more on, not always on the casual side, but they build stories really well, right? And a game that dropped off a while ago that was Star Wars based that FFG had, that had slightly similar aspects to what I would propose, Imperial Assault, where they had an events or seasons where there were certain maps and I believe objectives that that are assigned to that season. So what I would want is, obviously you can't really affect the quote map unless they have set obstacles, but specifically more on the objective, right? Build an objective that could be built around the current story aspect that they want to tell, that could help shape the future season.
Well,
I just think correctly implementing objectives is a good next step for the basic 200-point X-Wing.
And just to be a dissenting voice and just kind of play the other side here, but Imperial Assault's a complete game, though. Did it help it?
I didn't
Did it
say take
save
everything from it.
Just
Plus,
this
that's
little
Ground War.
piece.
I'm all about the Space War anyway. So
That's right.
Like they got Legion now. Whatever.
Yeah, I think that I would, you prefaced the conversation by using the word competitive or competition, and I would I'm highly against anything that is considered like competition versus a side event that is story driven or theme based or anything like that. I think it's fine for side events, and then I think the most successful like little mini games, if you want to call them, or side events, or is probably Aces High. Like that really, in person, it doesn't translate online, but in person it's kind of takes a 1v1 and it does more of kind of like when you're sitting around the table and playing some coup or something else that's just a quick hit around the table and everybody's having fun, everybody's laughing, and it's not really competitive. But it's
jump in there,
fun.
I look at Aces High it is a social activity. Is really what
exactly.
it is.
And that's where I would lean the themed events would also be for people who like RPGs, people who like those type of scenarios where, okay, let's pick up where our heroes of the cluster, Artillery cluster, or whatever it was called. People that can say, okay, let's play this scenario today. Next week we'll come back and we'll play part 2, part 3. So I think that is that. I don't think that would be a supplement or would be a third scenario of like a competitive play. For me, what I would love to see either out of Hyperspace Evolved or anything competitive added to competitions like System Opens and things like that would be some list building unique to the event scenarios. So I really enjoy and love I haven't done it a lot, but I think the couple times I've been part of like the Gauntlet, that's been fun. Like, okay, you've got 5 minutes, figure it out. I know you can't do that with the System Open, but for example, if they're doing System Opens and they're saying, okay, this System Open is in this planet and it's centered around this fight, here are your list restrictions for that. That could be a little bit themed and all that, but it's mostly like a list building challenge around that event. And then you go into the next System Open. It's like, okay, this next System Open, here's your list building challenge for the next one. And that's where I find that it doesn't get dull. Even if you have limited options and you're limited to only like 3 ships per faction, like even more limited, as long as it doesn't get redundant and as long as you're not facing the same top lists in every event, that for me would be enjoyable. Like I would love to go to different events and there's a different list building challenge for each event. There's different restrictions for each event, as long as they give ample enough warning where, okay, this, you can plan it out, maybe like a couple months ahead of time, not giving people like 3 days to figure it out. But that's what I would love to see as far as like a third competitive track would be unique lists building restrictions per event.
All right. Well, this conversation has been great, and I think what we identified is that there is design space for more organized play, right? So, the other reason we're bringing this up is, of course, it's a way for us to also talk about Lamu. By the way, sign up this weekend, okay? All right, right? But the other thing is, with more organized play being opened up, we want to give people as many ideas and remind you to have the creative freedom to try something a little bit different, because there really is a lot of room. Now, I would encourage, if you're going to make something weird, test it first. Shop it around. Ask people their opinion. Ask people who you think are better at the game than you are, right? Because sometimes we have gaps in our knowledge that other people might see it right away and identify an issue with your idea. But I still think there's a lot of ways to have a ton of fun for people coming back to organized play. Now, we are going to make some bold predictions. We're going to make some bold predictions. This weekend is the Lamu Galactic Championship qualifier. Right now, it looks like we'll probably have around 100-ish people participating. I would like each of us to take a guess at a bold prediction for this weekend. Do we have any volunteers to go first? Hyperspace now. We got to put on the hyperspace. Anybody in the chat got some bold prediction?
I'll go with a. Oh no, that's not bold. I was gonna say a TIE Interceptor wins it, but then it could be Gorn and Strikers in this, like that one, the last Hyperspace. So no, not very bold. I'll say Sunter Fell specifically will be in the final.
Okay. And that, guys, I said bold predictions. If you're throwing out Zam is not a bold prediction. All righty. Ryan.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm going to say, the Initiative 3 pilot that has the best performance is not the V1s. And can I go bolder? Is not going to be from the Imperial faction, because that also takes care of the Strikers. How much farther can I go with this?
So you're basically saying Deltas. Deltas are I3, right?
I was leaning on, I think we're going to have a better performance from the Jedi Knights than... Is that bold, though?
They're pretty good. The 3 Jedi Knights and Shakti or something like that?
They have showed up, yeah.
Yeah, 3 Jedi, 7 Bs plus whatever I feel like.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not going to make this prediction, but it was weird that in the last event, even though extended, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no Hera's in the cut. There's no way. It's bold to say she's not going to make it in the cut, but man, that was eye-opening to see. Will, if you got something you can take it, I'm still kind of fishing right now.
All my bolds are pretty tame. I'm really trying to think if I can get to one that I could really stick to, and that I'd be confident about.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of predictions. I don't know how many.
Are they bold?
Are they bold? Because see, every time I say something, there's there's all right. So my bold prediction: there are no 3 agility ships in the final.
Oh, okay.
I know that still leaves quite a bit of options, but no 3 agility.
My only bold prediction would be pretty narcissistic right now. Just because it'd be something that I'm playing potentially, but like I don't want to go that route.
My
Are you
bold,
saying Resistance making it?
Bold prediction: Ryan wins. Ryan takes
No,
it
not
all.
that. I was gonna say something makes an appearance in the top cut that hasn't been there in quite a while,
Ooh, okay.
but
All
that's
right.
way too vague, and I can't do that. So like, I'm gonna take a real shot in the dark here. Like, you know what? First Order makes a cut. What's the last time they made a cut? Right?
I think they've made plenty of cuts, right?
They make the
not
last
late,
few.
not the last couple. No. Well, you
First
know.
Order makes a cut without Kylo. There.
Oh, that
bold.
is bold.
I'm just throwing that out there. We're gonna go even bigger. We're not even saying they make the cut. They make the cut without Kylo.
All right, my bold prediction. Come on, Darth Vader final table. Let's go. You got Palpatine help. Is
Hyperspace.
Yeah, he's not in hyperspace.
He's not in
You're ta-
hyperspace. Ah,
That would
That's very bold.
If
Very
that was the
bold.
boldest.
Man,
Winner
we
cheats.
broke the rules the entire way through.
Okay. Man. Now it's on me. Now I'm the one holding back the boat here. Okay, you know what? My bold prediction is going to be that Jedi Knights don't make the top 16 or better. Jedi Knights do not make the top 16 or better.
I'm trying to think which one's bolder, that one or my claim on the First Order. Because Jedi Knights been making cut pretty consistently. They may not go all the way, but they make cut.
Well, that was our bold predictions for Lemieux. Looking forward to seeing whoever's going to be playing out there and putting on, of course, 6 games plus the cut on Saturday. It's going to be about 10 games worth of X-Wing this weekend, changing it up. The any person's championships here. So good luck to everybody who's competing. And before we end here, what I'd like to do is take a moment here and let's see if we can find. Excuse me. Let's see if we can go ahead and find a question of the week here. By the way, while you guys take a peek at the Discord, see if you guys can find a cool question. I wanna address a question I got. An absolutely fantastic meme was posted on the Gold Squadron Paint Wars discussion section on our Discord, and it was Grand Moff Tarkin with talking to Leia, but with my face on Leia's place, and says, "I grow tired of asking this. Where is Gold Squadron Paint Wars?" Soon is all I can say. I was supposed to. I'm gonna throw Nick under the bus. You guys ready? We were supposed to view the final cut for episode 1 today. Okay, but Nick said, "Can we push it back to tomorrow?" So potentially, the first episode and the template and really the first roll of the rock down the hill should be tomorrow. I finished composing the music. That was the spoiler I was able to give you. Like, look, guys, this is some of the background music. It's here. We should be ready to go. But if anybody has done any type of video production where it's episodic and you're trying to do, like, it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work, and you guys are so used to just instant, like, oh, I can just watch it right away as soon as something is done. So the painters are dying right now, because at this point, by the time we're done and the season's over, like the first season's over, it probably would have been about not a year, but pretty close for when everything is done. So looking forward to it, and thank you to everybody who was a part of Gold Squadron Paint Wars. Your patience will pay off. The first cut of the first episode I got to see was fantastic. The second cut, small tweaks, add the music. Oh, it's gonna be great. All right, we got any cool questions of the week?
Yeah, I got one here. This is we can expand upon this a little bit and personalize here, because I don't think that there's a specific answer. But Porter wrote in on our Discord podcast question of the week. I'm just going to quote him here. Semi-philosophical. That's not the word. Anyways, whatever. He's got
Philosophical.
Thank you. In a professional game, I'll translate that to a game of equally high-skilled players. When do you actually win or lose? Is it in the list building before ships are put down on the table, turn 0? Is it in the opening moves? Or is it the rest of the game and the rest of the game is just drawing out the win or loss? So essentially is when, like I said, I'm taking this as professional X-Wing, as what we've come accustomed to with like a XTC, of two just equally high-skilled players, right? When do you actually lose? I'm going to bounce it to you guys, I guess, because I already know my answer because I've had time to think about it. Or do you want me to go first?
I would say start. You start with yours,
Okay.
and then we can kind of fill in anything or add.
I would say that there's, assuming, like, if we're in the mindset of professional, which I'm going to take as competitive, so 2 competitive lists, I don't think you automatically lose in list building. I do think you can lose the game turn 0. But I think most games, when you have lists that can fight each other, right? I think it comes down to like one dial call and one good or bad dice roll, depending on which side of the table you're on. I think that's really all it could be. One bad dial call and one bad dice roll could be the difference between win or loss in like a high skilled game of X-Wing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to say that the answer to that is different to every player. It's understanding what you're good at and doing that. So what I mean by that is some players are really good at preparation, and that's what they do really well. They practice, they get their openings right, and they execute their plan, and that's the consistency of their plan and their play is what brings them victory. Other players are good at maybe playing on the fly and just kind of winging it a little bit, and just adjusting. And the players who do that and do that well, they win or lose based on making those couple right choices at the right moments, and more than anything else, kind of keeping their cool, because when you're winging it, you're oftentimes going to show up in a scenario that's suboptimal, and you have to kind of work your way around that. So I think it really goes, and some people just win in list building. They just put together like not really preparation, but just in their list, and they show up with something that's unexpected or something that they've built and they've that it's kind of catches people off guard. So I think it changes for everyone as far as like in a competitive set, what will in a competitive environment, what's going to win. It's, I guess at the end of the day, it's playing to your strengths and understanding your weaknesses. And if your weaknesses, one of my weaknesses is aggression, over aggression, and not, it used to be not counting the points. Like that used to be one of my weaknesses, like not knowing the win condition until the end and just kind of winging it, and like, oh, how did this end up? Let's see, let's find out. So I know that used to drive Dion nuts. So just understanding what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then working towards your strengths, practicing on your strengths, and then trying to limit what you do wrong. But I do also agree with William that it's usually one or two in a 75-minute game. It's usually one or two turns that really make the biggest difference. But even those 1 or 2 turns that make the biggest difference, they only do so because there was 50 minutes ahead of time that put you in that position to have that, like 50-50, do I go left, do I go right? Um, so even those scenarios that feel like, oh, it all hinges on this one move, it all hinges on that one move because there was 50 minutes or 70, 60 minutes, 70 minutes before that got you to that point. And the last thing I wanted to talk about that is um, closing the games. Watching XTC, especially the US games, but also like other games as well. One of the things that sticks out between the teams that have won consistently and the teams that have not, or the games that have won consistently and the games that are not, is players not understanding their win conditions and attacking when they're up or being ultra defensive when they're down. And sticking to, if your mode of playing is aggression and you don't know how to lay off the gas when you're winning, or if your mode of play is being defensive and you don't know how to hit the gas when you're down, and say, hey, I'm going to spend this focus and leave myself susceptible to get blown up, but that's my opportunity to win. I think that's the other part that I think um, I see, I have seen is the biggest difference between people that win and people that loses is at some point they lose, they don't know how to close the games, or they don't close the games as well as other people.
Ryan?
So I like when Marcel brought up the when you're coming down to what Will mentioned, that one turn, that one dial, that one thing. There are cascading effects that get you to that point. Everything in X-Wing has a level of ripple effect, but each thing that happens is only a small or large percentage of how it affects the game. And that's what I like about going back and analyzing my games, finding the things that had the highest impact on why I won or lost. And that could be turn 0 because you had a certain setup and this rock or this placement, you realize it in your deployment, you're like, I just completely messed up. That happened to me in my Worlds against Nicholas God. I deployed on the wrong corner of the board to take advantage of the rock placement. I lost in turn 0 against it. And then you have games that I would say most games are mathematically decided. Not after the first turn of engagement, because that's normally a range 3 engagements. Not a lot of damage is being traded. If it is, it's probably some variance, or one of the lists is meant to trade, like with torpedoes or something with longer range. But it's that second turn, the close in, the range ones, the stuff where you're finishing off anything that got a little bit of damage in the prior engagement, and the scrum a little bit after that, one turn afterwards, because that's where you can get some of those movement mistakes, misjudging your distances and self-bumping accidentally yourself, things like that. I think it's those, and that's why I commonly refer to turns as like the first turn of engagement, the second turn of engagement, and the third where it's like just a mess, right? And how much is left? What did you trade? Did you trade direct points? Did you trade positioning for those ace players? I feel like in those main turns is where, when you're up or down by points, is generally where it's going to lead towards the winner of that game, unless there is a drastic positional advantage, even though someone's down in future turns. But it's how you got there, right? That's why people a lot of times work on those setup and first engagements and roll back and don't play complete games, because getting that first turn engagement is very important on where you want to position. I would encourage everyone, if there's a certain matchup you're having trouble with, take your list and don't try and like fly it, like just envision, where do I want my ships to be when they are in their position? Like literally just pick them up and put them on a board and figure out, how do I get there? And then draw it back and figure out forward now how you get to that position. Literally just take your groups or single ships and be like, I want this ship to be here, I want this ship to be here, and I want this ship to be here. and now reverse engineer. How did I get there? Find the ripple effects that create that, and then figure out and practice that, and then utilize it in complete games so you know, like Marcel said, how to close it out.
Ryan Staniszewski calling out the backwards design. I like it. So I don't think I can really add to that, but I want to give a way to start assessing how you are doing on being able to create and realize these situations through a story. So I remember this was Worlds, the last Worlds I played in, whichever one that was. I specifically remember the game where I knew as soon as I put my last ship down, in my head I went, I have lost this game. I had realized it too late, but very similar to what you were talking about, Ryan, is there is an optimal amount of things that your opponent can do depending on your positioning. Because if they've done their homework and you haven't, and you realize it too late, that's a lot of times when you're losing those games. And just the way that the obstacles were set up, they had an alpha strike list, and there was no way that my list was going to be able to get an approach where my ships didn't end up, I didn't end up losing 2 ships in the first engagement. Like, it was on average dice, I lost 2.5 ships, and that's exactly what happened, right? So I had to try to go for the upside and say, all right, I'm pretty sure I've lost this game in setup, but I am going to go ahead and try to just joust it and see if I can dice myself out of it, because that's my option. So two-sided suggestion there is try to identify, if you're losing a game, what caused the loss, right? Why are you losing? Because sometimes, and this is the reason why, you know, I don't like the TTS dice stats, right? Is too many people go jumping in there, right? They immediately go look at the dice stats and point, this is why I lost, without giving us the full analysis of what had happened. Could the dice maybe have helped one way or another? Yes, but that should not be the first place that you're looking, and we've said that a lot. Work on identifying what you could have done to make the situation better for yourself. Find out why you lost. When you can start seeing turn 0 as a reason why you played that game suboptimally, or why your opponent had advantage on you, or what is the difference between good positioning and bad positioning? Because sometimes we talk about that, like, I have bad positioning. There are people who legitimately ask the question, what does that mean? What do you mean you have bad positioning? You know, there's a bunch of different scenarios where they can be, and that's something that we hope to continue to break down and analyze for you guys. But when you can start making those realizations, you know that you can start creating growth and try to avoid, you know, making the I set my last ship down and have lost the game mistake. Hopefully you can realize it before the setup actually happens. You can, you know, have that sim in your head and have been able to go through the matchup. That was a great question to pull there, Will.
Yeah, that was. I would like to add, don't always be results oriented though. Just because it didn't pan out the way you expected it to doesn't mean it doesn't mean 100% that your approach or plan was wrong though. You might have been right. They just might have had a better plan, or there were some things that you couldn't anticipate or have control over, which is a lot of times your opponent's own plans and things that they have. That might be where some of that whole like list building, you might have lost in list building step, but I think second edition is too difficult to get that much of an advantage by just this list versus this list.
I agree. Everybody's got a chance any day. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of Gold Squadron Podcast. I know you guys prefer when we go a little bit longer, but like I said, I'm working on a master's thesis, and this is the end of my time that I am available. So Marcel, Will, and Ryan, thank you as always. You guys are awesome. You guys know that you're awesome, right? I tell you guys in private all the time, but now I want to do it publicly so people don't think I'm like, you know, that I don't think those things. So here's me on air saying that.
Yeah,
thank you.
On air, we all gave each other hugs when we saw each other at the showdown, right?
Oh, this is true. They did see us. The cameras go off. Ah, this guy. Awesome. Well, again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to tune in on Wednesday starting at 5 o'clock. We should have an XTC game going on at that time. And if everything's gone well, my paper should be done on Wednesday, and I'll be talking about the fact that I'm done with the paper and just have normal homework to do after that. Maybe. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much for watching. Remember, get signed up for the Lamu Galactic Championship Qualifier. Tickets are available at goldsquadronpodcast.com. And for anybody that's participating in one event, just a quick reminder, remember, you only got to pay shipping one time, that shipping fee. After that, you can add as many events as you want, and all your prizes go in the same envelope. That's why you only do shipping one time. So that's a common question. But thanks for watching. Stay smart. Stay safe. Gold Squadron out.